The game of tennis, a sport so intense that when you pour your blood, sweat, and tears into it day after day after day, just to get better and better to the point that when you hit that ball with your racket just right and you can beat your opponent, you're going to scream, "Come on!" Challengers was directed by Luca Guadagnino, who did Bones and All, Call Me By Your Name, and the remake of Suspiria, or Suspiria. I'm not actually sure how to pronounce that. It was absolutely insane. Luca understood the assignment. He also had about an hour to the original and made it so great. This made me appreciate Dakota Johnson as an actress, and also had Chloe Grace Moretz, and it just had a great cast. Seriously, check out the IMDb page for this. But Bones and All was really, really goddamn good as well. It was also gross. Very, very gross. Call Me By Your Name is something I need to review at some point. I saw it once and was like, boy, that was intense. Speaking of intense, Challengers. So, it was written by Justin Kuritzkets, and I hope I pronounced that right. If I didn't, I do apologize. This is his feature credit, apparently, and it has gotten quite the viral marketing campaign. Boy, has it ever. To the point that I was actually seeing ads for this before the writer's strike happened, and I was like, boy, this looks kind of intense, and then I just totally forgot about it, because they put it on the back burner. And then I've been actually seeing trailers for this pretty much as far back as, I'd say, October of 2023. And I watch a lot of movies in theaters, and I watch, apparently, the right channels, to the point I have seen so many ads for this, I feel like I knew the goddamn movie before I watched it. So, there are other people in this, but it centers around 3 particular people. Zendaya, you know, pretty much, like, the biggest superstar out there, or at least one of the biggest superstars. I mean, she's all over magazines. She's all over, like, goddamn media. It's nuts. Spider-Man Homecoming, Dune Part 1 and Part 2. One hardly needs to go on about those movies, even though she, is revered as a pretty good actress. I did not see the Spider-Man movie that she was in. I didn't see that. And it's not that I don't appreciate, superhero movies. I just didn't get around to that. But I was interested to see how she was going to do in this. But also, she was not alone. You have Mike, F-A-I-S-T, Feist? I don't actually know. He plays Art. Zendaya plays Tashi. And you have Josh O'Connor, who's recently, and La Camara, playing Patrick. Is this Art? No, this is Patrick. And Art and Patrick are 2 best friends. They're also competing tennis players. They play doubles. They have a bromance, shall we say. You can tell just by, the fact how they interact. And also, Tashi is an up-and-coming tennis player that is basically seen as pretty much the next, big tennis superstar. Now, if you haven't seen the trailer, that's about the baseline I can give you. But it is based around, the game of tennis and also the intermingling of these 3 particular characters taking place over a few time periods. And I do want to say before I dive into anything that is a trailer-specific spoiler, that this features some of the best action as far as tennis, the tennis game goes, that I've ever fucking seen. This was absolutely incredible. Luca put so much heart and soul into this, and the 3 main actors as Zendaya, Mike, and Josh, were absolutely incredible in their roles. They were great. But that camera work, it felt like you were on the goddamn court. It felt like you were right there with the players. There were some shots that will stick with me. The synth score was amazing. There were some great goddamn, there were some great goddamn scenes, some tremendous dialogue, some great acting in this, and all of these characters are very, very flawed. And that actually, I think, is why this movie is going to end up being one of my favorites of the year. This was fucking great. The viral marketing campaign absolutely worked, because I went and saw this as soon as I could. There were early access screenings this past Monday, but I watched Boy Kills World because it was a Regal mystery movie. That's another one you should check out at some point. And Challengers, is going to be interesting to see how this does, because Luca's movies are a little bit divisive, shall we say. Call Me By Your Name might be the most, revered of the 3 that I mentioned. But really what's great about this movie is just the fact it takes its time with every single character. Are there some issues? Sure, there are some issues. No movie is absolutely perfect. Even Perfect Days, or there could be, you could nitpick stuff there. But I would be nitpicking as far as anything that I didn't enjoy with this. This is fucking incredible. I'm not a big sports movie guy. I have appreciated some sports movies. Friday Night Lights was one of the best sports movies I've seen. You had Varsity Blues. It was really funny back when MTV tried to actually make good movies. and we didn't know John Voight was a moron. But as far as just the game of tennis, the game I've never gotten into besides the Pretty Women, and the fact also that the Williams sisters were very, very talented. And also you have Pete Sampras, Andre Agassi, Andy Roddick, Roger Federer, various others that are escaping me right now. Rafael Nadal, that was another one. Djokovic, until he turned out to be a goddamn idiot. But the whole point is this appreciates and loves the game of tennis, while also not just making it all about tennis. Yes, it's pretty much tennis-themed some of the time, but it also focuses on these three particular characters and doesn't get dull. That's the amazing thing. It doesn't get dull one bit. So I am going to get into trailer spoilers. That's your warning, not full spoilers. So Tashi ends up suffering a knee injury, and this is shortly after she has a hookup with both Art and Patrick. There's a bit of a bromance between these guys that I mentioned. And you can tell that they love each other, but you can tell they're also competing for Tashi's affection. And it's nice because she's as flawed. She's so tennis-driven that even after that knee injury, she's bound and determined to coach and basically live off the glory of other people. Because when something that you love is taken away, you'll want to do that. But what I like about this is it does feature some of the best music I've heard. Some music that gets deep into your soul and just permeates through you. And the camera work, once fucking again, absolutely great. Luca did so well here. The camera crew did a great job. There were some, just these tennis scenes, they were so intense. I'm amazed I didn't create quite the racket when I watched this. I'm sorry, I'm not. These puns are nothing but net. Oh no, I'm gonna fault myself here. I'm done. I'm done with the tennis puns. Very ballsy of me. Moving on from that. Great character work and just, tremendous acting. I get it with Zendaya. I get it. Even though I haven't seen a lot of stuff that she's been in, I wasn't so sure about Dune Part 1 and 2, even though I thought she did well, let's be honest. Those movies weren't all that great. You can check out my reviews of those. Mike did a great job, and Josh O'Connor's having a fucking career year. La Chimera is another movie you should check out. It's probably going to be out of theaters soon, but it'll be out on streaming. He does a great job, even though he's pretty much carrying the movie on his own, all due respect to the cast. But yeah, I will say this much. The flashbacks get a little bit jarring. You have to kind of look at the hairstyles and look at, how the actors are and everything. But you can tell that they poured their blood, sweat, and tears into this. And there was a lot of training that they had to go through. Zendaya talked about that. Talked about wanting to make the crew, feel like, hey, you're doing a great job. You're doing amazing, sweetie. I don't mean that in a mocking way, apparently. She really is a down-to-earth person. But the thing is, it shows how flawed these characters are, and it just works. It just really, really fucking works. So I am going to get into spoilers just so you know, but it's great. It's fucking great. It's not really a movie you can spoil necessarily, but I'm just going to talk about a few specific things. It's in theaters, and please check it out because, one, I want this movie to do well. I want Luca to get more projects like this and just be able to continue to make movies because he's one of my favorite directors going of the last, 10 or so years. He's so fucking good. So, yeah, that's really all I got to say. Great performances. Zendaya. Great job. Great job. Spoilers. So, essentially, after she suffers a knee injury, and we bounce around a little bit because we see them playing tennis doubles, Art and Patrick, and there's a bit of a bromance thing that actually gets tied back into the end of the movie. And also, the fact that, they are competing for Zendaya's affections. We start with them facing off in a game in the present day. It's August 4th, 2019. And there's this bad storm that hit a little bit later or a little bit earlier, and we find that on as the thing goes around. It does jump back and forth a little bit. That's probably about the only issue I have with it, is I had to really pay attention to that stuff. It does reward you for paying attention. But, again, Luca, tremendous filmmaker. And tremendous acting. And good writing. Very good writing by Justin. And the thing is, for feature credit, I hope that he gets more projects. Because this proves that, it doesn't... You can say it doesn't take much to write a sports movie. But to write something with this intensity, you need a good cast. You need a great balance. And that's what they got. So, after basically they end up, hooking up, so to speak, Tashi kind of recognizes that there's a bit of a romance between them. Bromance, shall we say. There's talks of some experimentation that happened. Patrick had to show Art, so to speak, how to get himself off when they were 12. And that kind of leads to some stuff a little bit later. She basically, after a game, she does this, PR stuff at this party. They end up kind of having almost it almost turns into a bit of a three-way, but then she kind of pulls an Y tu Mama Tambien thing, and that, you'll know what I'm talking about, where she gets them to make out. And nothing wrong with that. I just want to say, nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that at all. If you got a problem with the LGBTQ community or anybody experiment, that's a problem. That's a problem, and you need to fuck off. That being said, she kind of plays them. She kind of plays them a bit because this is before her knee injury. Then she suffers her knee injury. And then we bounce around a little bit more. We see this game happen between Art and Patrick that keeps getting told, and we find out what built to that game. Because Patrick isn't necessarily doing all that well. At one point, he's scratching his arm, and we just see like this, and he's scratching the crook of his elbow. And you have to wonder maybe if the reason he's having money issues, apparently, is because he has a bit of a drug problem. Possibly, maybe. We're not sure. We don't see that. But that's just what I got from it. And Art and Tashi have a daughter. They have, they have family to take care of the daughter while they're taking care of games. She's coaching him up. But Art is getting tired. I mean, he wants to go for the Grand Slam, win all these tournaments. I believe the U.S. Open is the only one he hadn't won. And he's going to play in this Rochelle Challengers thing. And him and Patrick end up meeting in the finals. And it turns out, actually, that after she got them to experiment on each other, Y tu Mama Tambien style, she said, whoever wins gets my number. So Patrick ends up winning. Her and Patrick are together for a bit. Art, being the friend, also is kind of... See, the thing is Patrick is an immature dick. Zendaya is too driven by tennis. And Art also, he loves his best friend. He also loves Tashi. And also... he wants to drive a wedge between them. But also know how to play them against each other. Now, did Patrick and Tashi really love each other? We'll never know. There's some love there. It's the weirdest love triangle that I've seen in a while. But what ends up happening, maybe since Y tu Mama Tambien, a lot of Y tu Mama Tambien talk. Should I review that movie? I won't, even though that movie is good. That being said... the tennis scenes, once again, are fucking incredible. Some great stuff. Some great sweeping shots. There's a point at the end when they're doing like VR stuff and they're having the ball fly and the racket and all that stuff. And Zendaya also did a great job, playing the tennis star and doing some stuff. And you could tell the training paid off for her. And they did play Nelly's It's Getting Hot in Here. Pretty much his most famous song, I would think. I mean... at least up there. I mean, I know he did other music. I'm just saying that's probably the most played one. That's in the flashback, obviously. And just what's great about this is just how proper it presents the game of tennis while also showing how flawed these three are. And it's just so good. It's so good. And that scene I talked about where they had this, bond and everything when they're doing the tennis doubles thing. During this, during the build-up to this, Tashi's trying to get Art to beat Patrick. She meets Patrick during a violent storm, so to speak. While she's married to Art, wants him to throw the game. They end up still having that romance, still that camaraderie from being together. They end up fucking in the back of his car. Because why not? Again, proof that nobody is perfect in this movie. And then they're playing the game. They're really tied up. One was like 6-2. The other was 6-2. And then they got this final set. They're doing all this stuff. Patrick's losing it. He's smashing his stuff. You can't swear on the court. Art does because he's getting upset. And meanwhile, Zendaya's just watching all this stuff. Great camera work. Great stuff. And eventually, they showed the shot in the beginning where Art's coming down. Look, he's going to come down with the racket like he's going to smash him in the head, El Kabong style. Well, it looks like he was going to do that. And he ends up getting caught in the net. Patrick saves him. We have that, moment where... catches him, like when, they won that tennis doubles thing, and that camaraderie, and then she yells, come on, and the thing ends. And it ends because it's wrapped up beautifully. Wrapped up beautifully with a bunch of flawed goddamn people that are really, really, yeah, it's great. Does it have issues? Sure. But is it really, really goddamn good? Yeah, it gets an A fucking plus because it's so technically sound with great acting, and I loved it. possible top 5 film of the year. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Ritlin. I'll see you soon.